What's going on, everybody? It's Phoenix coming to you live on Thanksgiving. Shout out to all the homies out there watching this video. If you like the content, hit the like button. Consider subscribing to this video. It's actually a second take because I think the other video somehow got deleted or something happened to it. So if you're catching me a second time, welcome to the stream. But thanks for joining me. It's going to be a quick one. Actually just start off with a quick update on what I've been working on. So this week I actually started continuing my work on application development. This week I focused in on database architecture, illustrating the relationships between different aspects of data that my application is going to use or depend on, right, to provide the functionality to users. So, for those that don't know, when you create an app, it's the first thing I normally do, even on the team I was a part of, this bootcamp team, is we really want to pair the inputs and the outputs, right, between our database and our front end. So wherever the data is going to be stored, right, which is typically a database or the blockchain, we want to pair that and those relationships with our front end. So, think of like such things as what the names of certain tables are going to be, or what the data labels are going to be, within the tables. What types are we talking about? Are we talking about arrays or integers or dates, or, and what kind of relationships are we going to have between the various tables? So that was a lot of my focus for this week, just mapping all that out and really making sure that the relationships make sense. They're technically viable, and then transitioning that map, that markup that's done, into a database, right? So once you come up with your architecture, now coming up with the syntax to create the tables, come up with the syntax to create the columns, the primary and foreign keys, the links essentially that keep this glued together. And so that was the second part of a big portion of the work done this week. And so once that's done, kind of transition to looking into Google Maps and overlays of results and assets, right? So, part of this app strategy is, making sure that we have a user experience, right, that's on par with maybe what users see on Yelp or Airbnb, where you have certain assets that are overlaid, and you can click on any of those overlaid points or pins on the map and get more information, right, about that asset, maybe when it's available, what the pricing is, maybe a description, and maybe who it's posted by. So those are all things that again kind of honed in on this week. Haven't really started that work yet. It was more research and learning how to implement that, which I've done a little bit in the past, but my strategy is to use just Google Maps API with overlays, pins, and on the bottom section have an interactive, draggable list of assets that you can click on and interact with. So that'll be fun to get off the ground. I think next week we'll mainly focus on that, maybe shift the attention away from this listing detail screen that I've been working on, and focus on a Google, like a landing page that you can go to, put in your location. The app will then find, use the radius strategy and identify results in your area, right? Might start with randomization of those just to provide the simulation, but eventually we'll be calling these from database, hybridized maybe with blockchain in some way, to provide these results to the users. So that should be exciting. And then the third thing that I focused, the other thing I focused on this week was smart locks. So, part of this whole strategy is, how do we get IoT in play with like blockchain or apps, beyond like what Airbnb, actually Airbnb doesn't really do as much of that, to be honest. But what I'm thinking is to have in my app the IoT integration of the smart locks. So you can access different facilities if you have this smart locks installed, and you can know and log in users as they're interacting with these buildings, for example. So I did find a vendor finally that that provides this functionality. It wasn't something I was going to build myself. Part of the reason why is I wanted to make sure that my strategy integrates commercial products, right? I don't want to reinvent wheels or do something that's outside of my wheelhouse. I'm not a locksmith, right? Also, there's a lot of users out there that maybe already have Slage locks, Slage locks, Quickset locks. They already have commercial locks out there that are smart enabled. So, my strategy is trying to find a way that naturally leverages existing hardware that consumers might already have that want to plug into the application I'm building. So I did finally find a solution I think that is viable. It has sufficient API documentation. I had started to look, spent several hours actually on this, looking at other solutions that are out there. The problem is for many of those that were on GitHub, they were homebrew in nature. They weren't like probably wasn't stable in terms of various ways in which the solution was implemented. So the result could be inconsistent from what I read. It's not something I probably want to do, especially if you're like probably launching as a company. That'd be a lot of liability, right? If your product did not operate consistently. So it's really important to me to find a commercial offering that allows me to do that seamlessly. So that'll probably be in the cards after the Google work landing page is done, but probably we'll just go ahead and purchase a lock and just start playing with that API and just learn more about that functionality. So that's what's going on there. Obviously, we got the FTX fiasco, which I mentioned in the last video. It's exciting, not in a good way. If you've been affected, so my sympathies go out to anybody who was impacted by that in a negative way. Think he was playing his status, his well-connected parents, and I heard that he's still going to that New York Times event, which is pretty surprising if you ask me, but it just shows where the rule of law is in this country. So I think, it's a revelation to some. For me, it's more, I'm starting to embrace just like looking at what other countries and places, maybe I want to live or just reside in. Just looking less like it would probably be the United States. And it's not just this FTX thing, but it's just this lack of rule of law. And the corruption is global. A lot of people like to think that United States is immune to the corruption, but clearly we could see in this case that it's really smells bad, guys. And I don't think we've seen the end of it. I think there's a lot of contagion that is still out there. There's a lot of people that are hurt. And so that's what I'm waiting for personally before I maybe dip back in, maybe post, assets of mine as collateral so I can pick up more BTC. Looking at maybe 25% post of assets I have as collateral to enable me to do that. Keep a percentage on hand to pay the interest on those, and look out, maybe allocating still that 4 to 5 year runway that I've talked about in the past. So that's always been my strategy. It's not foolproof, but I think it's had a pretty good track record. So that's just something I'm looking to do. I kind of figured purchasing real estate is a good hedge relative to crypto, in a sense that real estate, yes, can crash, can go down, slower to do that, not as liquid, but typically, the hit might be 30%, 20 to 30%, right, on the downside, or it could even be level, basically no loss, right, if you went in with equity into the asset you buy. So I think, my holdings right now, probably somewhere net, no positive or negative on the holding with the increase in rates. You know, it had been up quite a bit, but definitely relative to crypto, not a bad position to be in. So waiting to see if there's more blood in the streets, and maybe post some collateral and get some more exposure even to Bitcoin. You got to be in it to win it is my strategy here as a pleb investor, and with no real backup. So when you have no backup, you learn real fast. When you touch the stove, when you get burned, you learn fast. And so I've learned fast from a lot of mistakes over the years, but that's kind of going to be my strategy here, guys. I'm looking at next week to see what else comes out. I did see that B1 also interestingly allocated some additional exposure and ownership, actually the largest holder, into Silvergate Bank. So interesting move there. I think given the timing, given that we don't know really what exposure Silvergate has to FTX, this is all alleged. And by the way, none of this of what I say is should be considered fact or investment advice. It's just my opinion as a citizen, just a pleb, as I said. But I do find it interesting, the timing there, because we haven't seen the end of the contagion spread from this Sam Bankman-Fried character and all the shenanigans he was doing. So, Silvergate is one of the few banks in the United States that does work with crypto firms. I think the only other one being maybe Silicon Valley Bank. And so I had heard that, FTX had a relationship there with Silvergate in the sense of allowing the funds to come in and maybe being illegally misallocated towards Alameda versus FTX. And so if that's the case, I wonder why B1 would invest in something that, basically could have extended liabilities if they're found complicit in part of the fraud. So smells kind of bad, guys. I don't know what else to say there, but it's your boy Phoenix, with the news today and just some thoughts. Hope you guys enjoy this. Please hit the like button if you like the content. And until next time, I'm signing off. And happy Thanksgiving to all you guys. I'll actually I don't really do the turkey thing on Thanksgiving. Probably just make some tamales, other things I like to make. And then I'm headed off to Phoenix, actually moving, taking some time off from the mountains and getting some sun. I actually miss Phoenix so much. So it'll be nice to come back and see some family and friends. So take it easy, guys, and I'll talk to you hopefully next week. Peace.